Welcome back to the Bourbon Retriever. My name is Chris, and today we are talking about Wild Turkey 101, the 8-year, the latest release from Wild Turkey, and is this something that you should yourself be out there hunting? Let's find out. So Wild Turkey finally brought back their age statement, the 8-year Wild Turkey version, back to the United States. This is something that they used to offer in the United States. It's a throwback to the older label back when it was under the Austin Nichols label. These were all 8-year 101 bourbons. They still had these internationally. You could get them outside the United States, but they weren't offering them in the United States. They dropped that age statement as the bourbon boom went on. To keep up with demand, they started putting out whiskey that didn't quite meet up to that 8-year age statement. The rumor is that the old Wild Turkey 101s, between dropping the age statement and bringing it back, were roughly like 6 to 8 year old. I think, yeah, here it is. I have it next to me. These you can find your shelf, and these are rumored to be about that 6 to 7, 8-year-old mark. So I'm excited that Wild Turkey has finally brought back that age statement for us here in the United States. However, I'm not too thrilled about the price. This is coming in at $45, whereas you can get the traditional 101 here for about like $28 here at my local store. So that is a significant upcharge for what used to be about an 8-year product. This was 6 to 8, and one of my worries is now that they have this 8-year product, that this 101 base product might no longer be the value bourbon that it has been a staple for the bourbon aficionados. Because if the traditional 101 keeps that same blending of whiskeys in that 6 to 8 year range, it doesn't really quite make sense that you are gonna up pay that much of a difference to get this 8-year, unless for some reason this 8-year blend has much older whiskey in it than that 8-year mark. And this bottle almost feels like it's getting squeezed in between a couple of the Wild Turkey brands. Like they've always had the Russell's 10 over here. This is also $45, so it is gonna be the same price as the Wild Turkey 101. The difference between them is the proof. Russell's is, I think, 90 proof or so. Yeah, 90 proof. And this is 101, and then there's about a 2-year age gap. So it kind of makes sense, that these to be similar priced. They're both age dated, and even though this one is older, the proof is a little lower, so that kind of makes sense price wise. But the issue is the Russell's 10 has always been knocked because it is only like a $5 difference from this Wild Turkey rare breed. You can get these for like $52 or $3 in my area, so it's, I guess I take that back, it's like closer to like a $7 or $8 mark. But the difference between the Wild Turkey rare breed and the Russell's 10 is night and day. This is a blend of 8, 10, and 12-year-old juice, but you're getting it at 116 proof. And this is the best whiskey that you can get on the market for the price. Go on and buy it if you do not have it. So like how the Russell's 10 here has always been squeezed in the Wild Turkey market, I am a little concerned that the Wild Turkey 8 is going to face the same issues, where if I'm going to be willing to already pay up to that $45 price tag, why don't I just go ahead and bump up and get this one? So with those pricing issues in the Wild Turkey lineup they have, I am worried that this product is not going to really do that well. I think a ton of people like myself are going to buy it on the first release here, but after this first release, we're going to have to see how good it tastes to see if it's going to be something that fits in the niche here. Otherwise, I think it's probably just gonna be a product that's gonna sit on the shelf. But let's go ahead and jump into it and see if it's worth the taste of it is worth the difference. So one thing about this, it is a fresh crack, so you have to take that with a grain of salt as I do the review here. But with that, let's go ahead and jump in the review. Cheers. Yeah, off the aroma, this is reminding me a lot of like a good Kentucky Spirit. I'm getting the most predominant sweet notes is a pear. I don't know if I've gotten pear on other Wild Turkey products before, but the pear is the most fruit note for me that is coming forward there, with a nice little bit of honey underneath. So like, imagine if you took a fresh pear and then just either drizzled it or just dunked it in honey. That is the aroma that I'm getting. The other thing I'll say is you definitely can tell there's a little bit of proof there, but it's not in your face. It's not abrasive. Like the traditional 101, sometimes it can be a little much for a beginner because that ethanol kick is there on the Aroma. Little more brutal. I don't know how to describe it, just more kind of in your face. It's not rounded around the edges, kind of rough. But this one is definitely much more, tame's not the right word, but just much more, I guess, rounded is the proper word. I'm not getting much of the cinnamon that I traditionally get on Wild Turkey 101. That's not a note I'm picking up, which I'm a little surprised about with how much I get it on prior releases, but let's go ahead and jump into the palate. Okay, the first sensation and probably the most overwhelming part of this drink so far is just kind of the syrupiness I get to it. It's not like a rich maple syrup. It's not dark. It's definitely on the lighter side, but the texture and the taste is almost just like I'm drinking a very rich, concentrated form of syrup. Like on first blush, taking a drink of this, I got almost a vivid image of a mint julep. Like I feel like I could put this in a mint julep glass, not putting the simple syrup in there, just have that crushed rock glass, a little bit of mint, and this is gonna be like almost the perfect mint julep to me. And then as it gets to the mid palate, it's almost like there's like a burnt orange. Like you took the, what was it, the rind or the brine or the rind, whatever that outside part of an orange is, and you put it over an Uber flame, just like burnt it. That's almost kind of like the taste I'm getting on my palate there. And there really isn't much of a rye kick like I normally traditionally would get on the 101s, but that burnt note is a little off-putting to me on the back end there. I don't know if it's just, you know, what I ate earlier today. I had a nice good steak, potatoes, salad. Oh man, it was an amazing meal. I don't know if that is messing it up at all, but there's just like this weird burnt note I'm getting. Yet overall, so far it's a fine pour, but let's put it up to what I think most people are going to compare this to. And really, when you're in the store yourself, trying to figure out what you should buy, the normal Wild Turkey 101, let's see how it compares to that one. I do have a couple of these Glens left. If this is something you're interested in, I made some Bourbon Retriever Glens. I think they turned out fantastic for my friends and family, but I got a couple left over. If anyone is interested in them, just send me an email and I can ship them out to you for cost. I think they're like roughly $12 plus, yeah, whatever shipping's gonna be. Oh wow, that is already much better than the 8-year. Wow. I'm getting much more like a deeper caramel note with that cinnamon I normally get on these pours. I don't know if it's because it's been open for a while. There's not much air in this, but it has been open for a little bit longer. This was a fresh crack. Maybe when we go back to this, I'll get a little more, but off first bat, there's definitely a lot more going on in the traditional 101. Like I don't almost even guess that this old 101 is older. If you gave me to these blind, I would probably guess that this one was the 8-year. Yeah, there's much more of that caramel that's coming through instead of the lighter honey that was on the 8-year, but let's go ahead and jump into the palate. Okay, so I'm sensing after drinking it why there might be a little bit of charge for the 8-year. It is definitely much more, after drinking the 8-year, there's a little more of like, when you wouldn't say watery, but the flavor isn't as pronounced on that front end of the palate for a traditional 101. Yeah, it almost tastes like ethanol water compared to the 8-year. There's definitely a lot more flavor on the palate with the 8-year, but as it gets past that kind of watery front part, when it gets to the mid palate, that caramel kicks back in. You get that rye spice on the back end with this pour, and it just finishes off with a really good finish for what is like a $25, $28 bottle. Yeah, it's really hard to have almost any complaints for this bottle for at that price point. Like for $25, $28, you really can't complain with it. But let me go back to the 8-year here and see if it's just opened up at all while I've been sitting here. Okay, maybe it's opening up a little more there on the aroma. I'm starting to get a little more red berry along with that pear note. Let's jump into the palate though. Yeah, there's definitely just a lot more fuller mouthfeel with flavor on this 8-year. That sweet syrup, I don't know if it's a fruit note. I wouldn't say it's quite caramel, just that dense sugar definitely goes right through the palate. You definitely tell it's there compared to the 101 where it's just getting it feels much more watery on that front. But again, it's still on that back end there. It's just not quite sitting with me. Again, it could be just how I'm feeling right now because I've never really had that on these before. Like the 70th I loved, the Wild Turkey experienced these. I've never kind of had that burnt note on the back end. Now, before I get into my final review of the Wild Turkey 8-year, if you're enjoying this content, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of my future reviews. So is this Wild Turkey 8-year, is it a buy, pass, get one of the other Wild Turkey products? For me, it's going to be a pass. I still don't understand what this product is really doing on the Wild Turkey lineup. I really think what they really should have done was just put the 8-year on the traditional Wild Turkey batches that they're doing. With the bourbon demand kind of diminishing a little bit, it would make sense that they probably would start having more barrels they could put into this, maybe hold some back, and then just keep this at an age-stated 8-year product. But even you could even bump up the price just slightly, keep it like low 30s, like maybe $31, something like that. However, I do understand these are probably serving very different markets. This Wild Turkey 101 is probably competing with very price sensitive people, and even those $3 might be a little too much. So maybe that's why they have to keep that at that price point, that where that bottle is. But for this 8-year, I just don't quite get it. I don't think it's that much improvement from the traditional 101. There is definitely more flavor there, but I don't think it's enough flavor to justify the extra cost that you're gonna be paying to get this bottle. 101 by itself is already a good drinker. It's a great cocktail mixer, and this is just a slight bump up, but it's not worth that price bump up, especially when only for a couple dollars more you can get the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is a phenomenal pour, and I would be buying that day in and day out before I'd be buying another Wild Turkey 101 8-year. So yeah, for you those at home, I would just skip buying this bottle. Stick with buying your traditional Wild Turkey 101s. Unless the deterioration in the spraying is a lot worse, then maybe you have to upsell, which then again, like, I don't even know if this is worth mixing, because you're starting to get up. $45 is a lot for a mixer. Like, you are going to be mixing the Wild Turkey 101 8-year. So I really hope this one, the old one, stays the quality that you can get it at. But as it is currently, this one, the Wild Turkey 101 8, I'm just not buying. I'll be buying the Wild Turkey 101 still for my mixers, and buying the Wild Turkey Rare Breed to drink neat. But that's my review of the Wild Turkey 8-year. If you're enjoying this content, before you head out, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future videos, and check out this video before you head out. And until next time, cheers.